go. So welcome back to Black Swan Outdoors. Today we're going to talk about the Playfair Cipher. The Playfair Cipher gets its name from a British officer named Playfair, who was the first to implement it into the military, the British military. It was adopted then into the other Commonwealth militaries in World War I initially, and then World War II. This is not a super secure way to send codes. But it's probably about medium grade, and it works fairly well. It's also very simple and very quick. And it's so simple that even a child or a fascist can understand. So I just received this message from somebody, and we're going to use the play square, which I have in front of me, to decode it. Now, the key to this is that you have two people with the same square to decode their message. And so to do this, all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this string of letters and I'm going to break it up into pairs. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. So Y, R, Q, R, B, R, N, G, Y, Y. And then I'm going to go ahead and put some lines between each of those two letters just so it can help you visualize the breaks in those letters. And the reason why I want to do this is because I'm going to use the two letters on this square to decipher or to break this code. And the way I do that is I'm going to put a finger on the first letter, so Y, and a finger on the second letter, which is R. And that's going to tell me that this code begins with X and E. X and E. So I'm going to go ahead and write that on the sheet here so I can just kind of keep track of breaking this code. Now, how did I get that? Well, what I'm doing here is I'm using the square to create a pattern. And I'm going to find the two letters, and inside those two letters, it's going to give me a pattern in which it lets me know what the encoded letter is. So in this case, Y and E are not on the same row or column. So what it's doing is between the R here, the corner here, and the Y here is I'm creating an imaginary box. And I went ahead and drew in a red box so you could visualize that. And in the opposite corners of these two letters, I have two letters, X and E. And so Y, R, X, E, that gives me. Now, if the letters were in the same column, I would just put my fingers on those letters, and everything to the left of those letters would be. So if it was J, it would be I. If it was E, it would be R. Because the person who's coding it, he took the letter to the right, or she took the letter to the right of that letter. So I'm just going to work backwards. If it was in the same column, then it would be the letter below. So I would just go to the letter above to decode that particular letter. Very simple. Now, because this is a 5-square grid pattern, I'm going to have to drop a letter off of the alphabet. So in this case, I'm going to drop the letter M. And that's really the only thing you need to know. You can use any kind of pattern of letters you want to use. I started out with using the word Black Swan Outdoors and then added in all of the other letters of the alphabet in sequence afterwards. Again, you can use your own patterns to create a much more secure code. Another pattern would be just to use A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way up to Z, like in this square here. Okay, so now that we've kind of got some of the fundamentals down, let's go ahead and break down the rest of this code, and we'll talk about the rest of decoding and encoding this message as we do so. So QR here, I'm going to find the Q and the R, so Q and R. So that is X and T. And then B and R. So that is A and T. and then N here and G. And that's S and X and I. And then Y and Y. Now that Y is on the same column, so to the left of that is X, X, and X. So 2 X's. Okay, so then I'm going to take this and I'm going to try to decipher this. Now, it might be kind of harder to read on the camera, so I apologize for that, but that's X, E, X, T, A, T, S, I, X, X. Now, here's a couple things. Now, I know that the person who wrote this out put this in the line in a string without spacing on here. So there's going to be some spacing so I could figure out what those words are from here. So the first word is X, E, X, T. Second word is A, T. Third word is S, I, X, X. Now, because this string was in an odd numbers, the space filler that's used is X. And so I can go ahead and erase this X here. And then I can see that I have the code here, which is meet at 6. Now I know that X here stands for M because that's not a letter in the square. Again, that's just a filler. It doesn't make sense. It could be any letter. Again, for me in this square, it's M. So, and then in order to make the code a little bit more harder to break, then instead of using, if you have a word with 2 of the same letters, like meet, I swapped out one of the E's for an X. So I can go ahead and change that X to an E. So my code here is meet at 6. Pretty simple. Really, the only 2 rules you need is to have non-repeating letters within your square. Drop out 1 letter on that 5x5 square. You're going to write out your message with no spacing, encode the letters 2 at a time, fill the uneven strings with an X, and then in the column, use the same letter below. On a row, use the letter to the right, and then if it's boxed, you're going to use the opposite corners to find your letters, and then replace X with any repeating letters if you want to make that a little bit more challenging. So it's just that simple, very easy, very quick. Hopefully this was helpful. If you've got any other ciphers that you would like me to take a look at and do, or any ciphers that you might use, please put them down in the comments and, below. Remember to like and subscribe. And if you want to learn how to do some of this stuff, follow us on the blog, as well as check out our book on guerrilla communications.